So, you think you want to travel a lot when you're retired? Me too. But I'm not waiting until retirement to start some of these travel opportunities, and maybe you shouldn't either. So, I'm going to list 10 reasons why I'm starting my travel journey now. And maybe these are important to you as well. And make sure you stay till the end because I would argue the last three are things that nobody else is talking about. One is you want to become an experienced traveler now. You want to get your low key anxiety out of the way if you've not traveled much in the past or at least in recent years. I consider myself to be an adventurous traveler. In my youth, I backpacked through Central America by myself. I figure I can do all of this. And I lived a semester in Europe as well. So I'm like, I can do this, no problem. But when we went to Spain in 2022, that was our first international trip in more than 25 years. And it was low key anxiety getting myself there. When we went back in a subsequent year, it was much easier. Why? Things have changed since the last time I traveled. Now everything's an app. And while that's easier in some ways, it's really nice to have GPS. I think back to some of my travel days, it would have been lovely to have that as an option. It is a lot different, and there's a lot of different things that you need to learn how to navigate that were not part of the past. And I also think if you are nervous about these things, nervous about travel because you haven't done it for a while, you might procrastinate going, and that's never a good thing. Second of all, you along those lines, you need to figure out now, do you like traveling? If you take a couple trips and you realize, I really don't like this. I really think I'm more of a homebody. Suddenly that changes your whole retirement calculation. Suddenly you don't have to have a whole lot of savings set aside for some big trips you're going to take. You can might realize it's like, maybe, a small trip every few years is really all I want. Or maybe all I really want to do is go to the lake for a week, not too far from home, that I'm really not a travel kind of person. So test it out, see what you like. Planes, trains, and automobiles is not constant excitement and joy. And those Instagram feeds and those YouTube videos about travel, they only show you the highlights. They don't show you the times that were a struggle. Number three, figure out what kind of traveling you really want to do. Do you like going a city a day through Europe? We did that a couple years ago with my brother-in-law when we went to Germany. He lives in Germany and he was showing us all the places he knew and loved. And so it was nice to do that, but I was exhausted. I don't like traveling where I'm in a different hotel every night, where I'm packing up every morning and unpacking every night and always moving from place to place to place. I like having a couple days in a city or even longer. Or maybe you like to live like a local. That's actually my favorite thing to do. I had a sabbatical in 2023. I was able to live in two different towns in Spain and was able to just live there for a month in each one and see the sights in that general area. I loved that because I was feeling like I got to know a couple of places really, really well. Or maybe you'll realize, I'm really just someone who wants to go to the beach. I like going to the beach. I like just looking at the oceans. I don't need to go far to find a beach. That's really all I want. So what kind of traveling do I really want to do? Fourth one, now we get into the dark stuff. None of us has really ever promised tomorrow. I know if you're planning for retirement like me, you're making contingencies. What if I live into 100? Will I have enough money? I'm planning for a 30-year retirement, but what if it's even longer? But here's the reverse side that we don't like to think about. What if I don't make it? What if I get sick a year or two into retirement, or my husband does, and we're not able to make those trips together because one of us passes away before we ever get there? I don't want to do that. So I want to do some of these things on my bucket list now because who knows where life will take us. And the fifth one is like that. Do the logistically and physically challenging things now. Some of these things are harder to do as we age. This September, we're taking a trip to Peru. We're going to go on the Lares Trek for 4 days, which includes a day at Machu Picchu. I like to think that I could do that in 930 days when I retire, but I don't know. I know I can do it now. And to that end, next summer, we're planning on going to Alaska. Initially, we thought we would take a cruise, and then I looked into it a little more and realized that for me personally, ending up in some small Alaskan town with 3,000 or 4,000 of my closest friends is not really my idea of how I want to do things. So we realized that at this stage in our life, we can just go to Alaska. We have the ability to drive around the Kenai Peninsula and see a lot of the sites there. We can do hiking, we can do kayaking, we can take a train to Denali and do more things there. We still may do a cruise someday when we're less mobile and group tours are more appealing, but right now we can do physically and logistically challenging things. So let's do them now while we can. Sixth is security. The aforementioned Peru trip is something I've wanted to do for a very long time. It was a bucket list, and we'll talk about bucket lists in a moment. I wanted to do that years ago when I was young, when I was doing that backpacking through countries and all that adventure traveling. And at that time, the political situation in Peru became politically unstable. And by the time things got steady again, I was married and I had a kid or a kid on the way, and it just wasn't the time in my life to make that kind of trip anymore. Right now, things in Peru are pretty good, but who knows where things will go in the future. So I want to make sure that I'm going to the places I most want to go while everything is still a safe place to travel to. Number 7. I think all of us fear spending too much money the first year or two of retirement. And I think that might keep you at home. You're afraid to spend money. So we're taking some of these trips now so that if we get to that place, we're like, oh, let's just wait and see how the markets do in year one before we travel. We'll know we've already done some of the trips that we really like. And along those lines, we're also planning on booking as many trips as we can ahead of time for that first year, maybe first 18 months, and having those paid off before our last day of work. There's less anxiety to buy things while you're still working, while money is still coming in, and that will allow us to make sure that we are already going to take those trips because they're already paid for. Before I give you numbers 8, 9, and 10, I'm going to ask you to please like and subscribe. It costs you nothing, and it means the world to me. I am in pre-retirement mode, dreaming, planning, reality checks for my 1,000-day countdown before retirement. I'm at day 930. How many days do you have? Okay, number 8. It helps you build a better bucket list. I have a bucket list from when I was in my 20s, and it was right out of college. And I haven't seen it recently, but I know it's still floating around in my paper somewhere. But one thing I remember that I had in there was go skydiving. And I've kind of kept that in mind for a number of years, that at some point I need to go skydiving because that's on my bucket list. And at some point I realized I no longer have any desire to do that. More power to you if you have done that, if that's still on your bucket list. If you love it, go for it. But I realized that I don't like it anymore. Those roller coasters that I used to love where you got that big, feeling in your stomach when you had a drop, I no longer find that enjoyable. So I don't think skydiving is really something that's on my bucket list anymore. So we need to build better bucket lists as we get older. We have different priorities, and doing some travel will help you realize what's important to you. The things that are important to me now, I realized, is cultural immersion. I love staying for a month or at least a couple weeks at a time in one place and really getting to know one space well. That live like a local feeling really helps me understand people, understand their way of life. And I think that does so much to enrich my own life and my own journey if I have a chance to really get to know a place. I'm also going to see that we have realized that we really like food experiences. We like food tours. We like trying out different cuisines, going to really nice restaurants, doing street food. We're just really into the food experience. Neither of those things were really a priority for me when I was younger, but they are now. And I'm also someone who's realized I just want to say no to copying other people's Instagram experiences. Some of those places are lovely, and I may go there to some of those too. But I just want to go to unusual, out of the way places where I can discover things for myself, where Jim and I can find little nooks and crannies and small museums and fun experiences that are just ours, not something that everybody else in the world has. Number 9, along with the bucket list, this is a way to fill that reverse bucket list. A reverse bucket list is something where instead of you look only at the things that you want to do in the future, you also look at and celebrate the things you've done in the past. And I want to make sure that we start celebrating our history. I want to get one of those photo frames and slideshows and put our trips on there and the things that we've done. Maybe scan some of the old photos from the old trips on there too. Remember the fun we've had, and make sure that as we're doing new things, it's not just to have the experience in the moment, it's to have those times to remember and reflect back on, and these fun stories to tell. And the 10th reason, and this is important, is to have a realistic idea of how much travel will cost. I think if you don't travel, you don't really know. You may decide, hey, I'm going to be a budget traveler. We only need a hotel to sleep in at night. We don't need anything fancy. We can eat at markets and street vendors. We don't need to have big sit-down restaurants. It won't cost us that much once we're in country. And then you realize that your back hurts if you sleep in a cheap bed, and that you get nervous buying everything in the market, and you really just want to go to a restaurant and sit down and relax. That's going to cost you a lot more. Or conversely, maybe you have all these ideas of Michelin star restaurants and going to Western style hotels, and then you realize, hey, really, some of the local accommodations are great places that give you a little bit more of a window into the world. And just going around and eating snacks in small ways is really fun. We don't need to do the big tours. We don't need to pay all the admissions to the museums, because just walking around the town in and of itself is a cultural experience, and you realize travel costs you less. Whatever it happens to be, you aren't going to know how much travel is going to cost you in your personality and what you like until you give it a try. So what do you think? Do you have any other reasons why you should travel now as opposed to waiting till retirement? Do you think this is a crazy idea? Lisa, I need to save money now. I'm not going to go anywhere until I've hit my financial goal. Tell me down in the comments. Like I said, if you subscribe, you'll get to see my next video as I count down my last 1,000 days until retirement. See you in the next video.